Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero AI stock market live streams. It is Monday, June 8th, and we have had quite the red day befall the markets on Friday with the QQQ dropping over 4%. Oh my gosh, we were talking about every green day on the market time after time. And it looks like we are in a new environment, possibly. We'll have to have George explain his most recent thoughts on the market. It looks like we could be switching up here, but we are green to start the day. So you never know what's going to be going on in the market. We got Mario in the building, morning all, getting a bit of transfusion now after the bloodletting on Friday. Yeah, it caught a lot of people off guard, I'm pretty sure. JC saying morning to Mario and all. Monday looking good so far. We are seeing a recovery here. So it looks like the market is going to be a bit of a whipsaw after the red day on Friday, although we can update QQQ and SPY net option sentiments here right to begin. They are not feeling as bullish as the market has opened up here today. The QQQ is now at 10 for NOS. So at least it's pulling up a little bit higher off its lows of 4 to end the last week. But the SPY is still at 0, and it is doing that dreaded flat line. It has been 0 ever since June 3rd. So we're coming up on a week now of the SPY being down at the lows. A little bit of housekeeping here. We will not be live at our normal Wednesday 3 p.m. time this week. We will be going live Friday at 1:30 to 3 p.m. There's going to be maybe some shifting scheduling and different guests on the stream over the coming weeks. So we're going to try and get some extra content. So put on your thinking caps, everybody. If you enjoy the streams, bring some topics to Friday because we're going to try to run through a bunch of topics. So we'll have extra content to post over the coming weeks. So yeah, make sure to come prepared with some notes. We'll be answering any questions you guys got. As always, be sure to drop a like here now if you love the streams, are excited for today's topics. I will take you all through them, and when George gets in here, we will jump into them in detail. Got a bunch of great ones to go through. So to begin, we'll cover the drop we saw on Friday. And one note that I think it's very ironic, which I actually posted this on the Prospero Twitter as well, is that we had such a bullish market and really, not too much volatility unless you're counting in the bullish direction for a while, multiple weeks, maybe even a few months. And the first day that pattern day trading, the ruling is revoked, and retail investors and accounts under 25K are allowed to trade as much as they please. We see such a bad day in the market. And I just find it's ironic. Like, I'm sure there's a few people who got that rule revoked and were trading with emotions, maybe a little too much on Friday. And I wonder if there's any connection between how much it spiraled and that rule being removed. Then I have a stat about how profitable S&P 500 companies are becoming, and this ongoing bullishness we're seeing in the markets is being backed by earnings. It was shared as well, a different stat, but in the same line of thinking was shared in our pre-stream email this morning. I see NW joining the chat saying, "Good morning, what's up? Nice to have you here today, NW." But yeah, it looks like companies are making some major profits and being as efficient as ever. So the AI efficiency narrative, a little bit backed up with this stat. Then we're going to get into Corning and Amazon announcing a deal which sent Corning up 10%. My question for George on this story is not so much about the ongoing deals we're seeing with these tech giants and these infrastructure players, but I'm curious if this is going to have a secondary effect where people that have worked at these companies who may have not expected the stock to rise so quickly. I'm wondering, because it's happened all over the place now. You're seeing many stocks rise 300, 400, 500%. The shareholders of those companies, even especially the employees, are we going to see like a mass retirement spree? Or is anybody going to take their chips off the table? And how would that affect these companies if that were to happen? Would that actually be a good thing? Because we've talked about how, the AI is going to take jobs. So is that something these companies would actually not even be fearful of, but encourage? So I'm wondering if we're going to see like a turnover in those companies that have made a huge move and how it would affect them if their employment staff were to do so. And W said, I felt some kind of way about Friday until one of my brothers told me he sold his absurd amount of MU holdings at 75. He said I could have been retired. Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda. It always looks better in hindsight, but yeah, that's a tough one. MU now trading over 1,000, I believe, would have been probably close to a 15x on his position. So I wonder, you got to get your brother in Prospero if he's not yet. Okay, so MU is back just under 1,000 at 950 right now per share. Uh, but yeah, MU's been on a crazy tear, crazy, crazy tear. And maybe Marvell will be the next MU, which we have another story about today. Marvell and Flex joining the S&P 500. They are replacing Pool Corp and Campbell's Soup Company. I wonder if in the future, if like these kind of boring companies like the Pool Corp or Campbell Soup, like will people actually even work on them? I don't know. It seems like people are going to have a more optionality in where they spend their time, how they spend their energy in the future. And I'm wondering if like all of these boring industries and are just going to be like automated away and they're kind of just going to be the first ones where people just don't aren't interested enough to work in them. Um, yeah, and we'll see the shift in like the S&P 500 become more tech over time. We have a bullish story for Intel today. Let me check out Intel in Prospero. I know the shares were up this morning as well. Uh, okay, some mixed signals in Prospero now for Intel. 54 net option sentiment, still a 73 upside to 62 downside. It looks like Google and Nvidia are eyeing Intel as a supplier of AI chips. Intel is now up 12% on the day. I'm curious for George to shed some light on the fact that, now Intel seems to be getting all of this attention. And I'm wondering if before the administrational stake, if companies like Google and Nvidia would have ever considered Intel for this, because there is so much demand. So maybe it's not connected, or maybe there are some behind closed curtain conversations going on. And I'm wondering like which is accounting for more of Intel, because if it's the secondary one, um, becomes like a big election risk. I feel like unless they already ingrain themselves with these companies like Google and Nvidia before that happens. But it seems like the demand cannot be met, so maybe Intel would have been thought of as regardless. TSM cannot meet the demand of Google and Nvidia. That's why they're even considering it in the first place. Then we have the week where the IPO, we've been counting down for it. It is the week where SpaceX will be IPOing this Friday, June 12th. Going to be blockbuster. Maybe we'll even, since we're going to be live Friday, 1:30, maybe we'll even be live while SpaceX actually IPOs. That'd be pretty cool. Uh, I think typically IPOs go live around like noonish, so maybe it'll be live just before we start, but it'll be fun regardless. It should be live at some point while we're on stream, so that will be fun. Uh, it has been interesting to note that the space stocks have not been able to rally over the past couple of days, mostly. Kind of the whole gambit of them, but obviously with our ASTS focus here and stock pick of the year, we'll highlight them. But a lot of these companies have pulled back ahead of the IPO. Now we know buy the rumor, sell the news. I think because this IPO and the was talked about so much and hyped up so much, maybe we saw that buy the rumor, sell the news even like speed up and happen a week ahead. But now maybe it's creating another buy the rumor, sell the news situation where they've sold off and now they can run again through the IPO or even beyond it if there becomes so much momentum for it. I've seen people also connect the dots of last Friday's sell off as institutions, funds, investors looking to raise capital in order to invest in the SpaceX IPO. As we know, it's projected to be as high as almost 2 trillion. So it's going to be a big liquidity suck amongst all other positions in the market. So we'll discuss all those details. The time is now for the IPO to start. I also have another stat for it, but first we'll say good morning to Kevin Hawthorne in the chat. Good to see you here today. There is a pension fund, the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, who made a killing on the SpaceX IPO. They invested 300 million in 2019, and they are potentially sitting on upwards of a $12 billion return from this one investment, which is pretty insane. Now, I have a few questions about this. First of all, I feel like pension funds, since they are like, like people are depending on them, I would imagine they invest very conservatively. So I'm curious on how they even invested in kind of a more risky company to begin with in SpaceX. And my second question on that is, um, now that they've had this massive return, where does that capital go to? Do the teachers all benefit? Are their pension plans now being boosted? Or where does that money trickle down to, if not the case? Because that's quite the return. So I think if you're an Ontario teacher, you should be feeling pretty happy. Hopefully, it goes back to them, but I am not exactly sure. Disguise, should we request the ticker in Discord or will it get added automatically? SpaceX. I'm thinking this one will probably get the auto ad, uh, but I can chat with Brent. I have to reach out to Brent after the stream anyway to get our community Discord pick of the week, which was Metastock. So I believe he's the one that does the ads and ticker ads in the app now. So I will bring it up to him, this guy, and I'll just say, you know, are we planning on adding SpaceX right away? I think we probably will. We have a couple more topics to go to. We have South Korea stock market opened up down 8%. So if we think we had it bad here on Friday, people in South Korea have it a little bit worse. But they also had it better beforehand because their market was tearing like crazy. I believe it was up over 100% year to date. So that market is super volatile at the moment. And if we think we're in a bubble, I imagine people in South Korea are feeling very nervous about their stock market and just how much it can move on a single day. Then we have some stats that I couldn't get to last week that we will try and get to here today. We have a stat about the top 1% now holding a larger share of US wealth than the entire middle class. So, building upon the concentration of wealth, which we discuss a lot on the stream, and trying to fix that with Prospero, trying to redistribute the wealth to all of our amazing users and audience. Then we have global stock market achieving $150 trillion or eclipsing $150 trillion for the first time ever. And the US makes up a large majority of that, if anybody wants to guess right now. But USA is still the king of the global stock market. For how long, we shall see. And then we have a ETF crossing $1 trillion of assets under management. So incredible numbers going on, and the markets are booming. Like we were saying, the markets are in the green today, react almost gaining. Yes, so the QQQ is up 2.5% right now. So probably gaining just about half of Friday's, or a little bit over half of Friday's drop. It's going to be interesting to hear what George thinks about today's rally and like how we should react. If we should react quickly to this green we're seeing. I feel like everybody's so used to the momentum now. It only feels right to like expect more of it. And the buy the dips are coming quick. So uh, are we going to buy this dip or are we going to not trust it? So we shall see. Let's see some other stocks that are moving bigly here today. I almost had a story on the docket about Oklo. They acquired a company, I believe, that has expertise in engineering and manufacturing nuclear facilities already. So almost built on our topic about them last week. Quantum catching a wave today from JC. Let's see quantum stocks, which we now have to include IBM in that category, which feels weird to say. So we have IonQ up 10%, QBTS up 9%, RGTI up 7%. Yeah, it looks like the whole sector is up just about 5% plus here today. Let's check out IBM, see if they're partaking in that. IBM red at the moment, so fascinating. On a day where quantum is rallying, it seems like that is kind of the driver for IBM at the moment, at least in terms of their growth and excitement for that company. They are not well, they just turned barely green on a day when that sector is rallying a lot. So, um, curious to see if they are able to get some momentum and catch that quantum wave. Can George revisit a question from Wednesday about dark pool? He said, look at outstanding shares with a high dark pool rating. Can he elaborate on that for a moment? Definitely he can. I'm also going to be posting the dark pool short video this afternoon. So if anybody missed that full topic with George, you'll get a quick summary of it later on this afternoon across our socials. But it is an interesting topic and maybe worth going back and watching from our stream last Wednesday, I believe, is when we discussed it, and it was towards the very end of the stream when we did go in detail on it. But yeah, I'll definitely double click on that for you when George gets in here, and we'll go back into it in detail. Let's check out the Prospero Hour Picks section of the app, which is when you open it up. Interesting. We have Reddit at the top, 97 net option sentiment, followed by IBM, so being highlighted by the Prospero signals here. Apple, whoa, George is not going to be happy about this. No, I feel like he's never bullish on Apple, but Apple now in the top 10 picks. ExxonMobil, Nvidia, Robinhood, Joby, Nokia, ARM, and Planet Labs. Interesting list here today. Joby is now back under $10 per share, so they've sold off quite a bit. Robinhood, after this pattern day trade rule being revoked, I feel like should get, I don't know how much it would boost their trading aspect of their business, but it seems, just to me, I feel like it would be like a double-digit percent gain in activity. So I'd imagine that would be very good for Robinhood, um, and other brokerages too. But I feel like Robinhood captures the largest retail audience for it, so probably would affect them the most. JC George will blow his top if he sees GameStop in a short-term bull. Yeah, we should troll George one day. I'll Photoshop the short-term bull list, and I'll have like GameStop, AMC, Robinhood, Apple. What are some other least favorites? Maybe something like crypto adjacent, MSTR. No, he doesn't really mind MSTR, but yeah, it would be funny. Or just like some of the long-term, like I think Wendy's is like always a perma bear pick. Yeah, that would be funny. Some stocks that you do find are like consistently on either the bull or bear list, and I feel like they don't have as much like even when they're they've been down for so long or up for so long, even like you kind of expect, like, at some point a sell-off will occur because it's just been up day after day after day, or a buy the dip will occur, or even a short squeeze for like something like Wendy's or like other stocks that are on the short-term bear picks. But um, they just continue to go lower a lot of the time, and they continue to stay on those lists. So uh, I've come to trust the lists a lot. You don't want to go against the Prospero signals. The more you get used to them, the crisper that becomes. We did change the screener to a bear breakdown screener. If anybody's curious and missed that in the app on Friday, so that's new. There's a couple interesting stocks there. Um, some tickers I've never even really seen before. Some things in the negative on these screeners, so fascinating to see. All right, let's check out the Mag 7 and Bitcoin here. We did get a headline today about how MSTR bought the dip that they created. So we've been covering it on the streams. I don't think we'll go into detail on it when George gets in here, but they sold 32 Bitcoin for I think $2.5 million, sending Bitcoin down probably 10+%. And now there was a story that came out that they bought $101 million worth of Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure, like 1,500-ish Bitcoin. So they sold 32 and bought around 1,500. So we'll see if Saylor is playing 4D chess, or if he is dancing too close to the sun, because there seems to be a ton of pressure on that company at the moment, and people are wondering how long it can go on, or if it's sustainable. Bitcoin is at 64,000 now as we're streaming here today. They did briefly break the 60K level, And on June 5th, we're trading under 59,000 for a brief blip. So it was dire there for a moment. A lot of people are highlighting like the $48,000 level I'm seeing for Bitcoin. So I'm seeing fingers being pointed as that being a bottom for the stock. So or not stock, for the crypto. So we shall see. We shall see. Let's check out Mag 7. Apple up 2%. Apple is now over $300 per share, up 15% year to date, 53% in the past year, 150% nearly in the past 5 years. Apple is a train that just keeps on chugging along. 37 PE ratio for Apple. Interesting. I did see they had their WDC conference, so sometimes people look for some positive announcements out of those. But we have Apple in the green, Amazon in the green, Google down in the red, Meta in the red, Microsoft's red, Tesla green today, reclaiming $400 per share. And I believe Nvidia is in the green as well. Yes, Nvidia in the green, up almost 2% here today. Wow, Intel is up almost 13% now. AMD up almost 6%. So these stocks are high flyers and big momentum drivers, all of these semiconductors and AI infrastructure players, but they've gotten so large now that we've seen on Friday, you know, with one bad day for the SMH and a lot of those semi names, they're going to basically drag down everything with it. Nvidia reclaiming 5 trillion in market cap here now too. What is AMD's market cap at the moment? $800 billion now. So AMD within about 25% of hitting that trillion mark. And it did look like, looking back at it now um, who was it? It was Broadcom. That Broadcom earnings was kind of the green light to kind of take some chips off the table and cash in on some of those moves that we had seen. They pulled back quite a bit after their earnings now and still down from their all-time high. So we will look to see, excuse me, if Broadcom can get any momentum back, being a $2 trillion company. All right, I believe George is about to join us, and we will jump into the topics. Let me just scroll through the chat one more time, make sure we got everything ready to go here for when George gets in here. All right, I think we can just start off with NW's question about the dark pool. Maybe there's a camera malfunction. I see George in the stream now, but it's all black for me. We shall see if the camera gets situated. Let's look at some other big movers here. So Marvell's a stock that we're going to highlight on the stream today. We're being added to the S&P 500, up 14+% now, and looking like it's getting momentum back in it quicker than most of even the other companies. And we all know Jensen Huang said it's the next $1 trillion stock. So 4x from here. First topic should be the Knicks. Oh my gosh, JC. It's been magical. I'm not going to deny it. I know people come here for stocks, but the Knicks run has been absolutely crazy. Being up 2-0, I'm such a I've been beaten down by the Knicks for all my life, so I don't even feel confident being up 2-0, but we shall see. If we go up 3-0 tonight, I think we can officially start planning the parade, the parties, the celebrations. But yeah, unbelievable. And the last game was so exciting. Shout out to Karl Anthony Towns carrying us when we needed him most. The chat is calling for your Knicks reaction being up 2-0. They're saying this needs to be the first topic. Game 3 tonight.
Oh, that was one of the best games I think I've ever watched. I mean, there's been better games, but as a Knicks fan, I like the only one I can remember being more excited for that was Larry Johnson's 4-point play. Whatever year that was. I don't know. I think I was in high school. But yeah, I mean, I don't really remember the Rocket series or the Spurs series that well. So this is like the Pacers series in this. I like, and like that run. which I think that who did we? I think that was when we had Jason Kidd on his last legs or something. I don't even remember. Anyway, things are looking good, but I don't like to get too excited. I did really like to see how uncomfortable New York people are making the Spurs. I think that's just hilarious. They're young. Hopefully you can rattle them a little bit. And some people were stabbed in Penn Station last night. That's not great. I live right near there, but maybe that person's idea was make the area around MSG look even a little. Maybe that person was just a big Knicks fan.
I thought I saw a stat. Maybe it was just like a troll headline, but that like crime was down like 500% or something since the Knicks have been in the finals. But I'm not sure if that's true or not. But stay off the streets if they win.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I might go on one. I might be one of those crazy people. I mean, I can kind of see it from where I'm at, but you got to be in the action.
So to jump back into let's go Knicks, but let's jump back into the stock market content. We got a question from NW.
Oh yeah, I also have a hard stop at noon today, so we gotta.
All right, so let's run through these topics.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just circling back to the dark pool question we got on our last stream. You said look at outstanding shares with a high dark pool rating. Can you elaborate on that?
No, I didn't say that. I said that normally the people that make it normally when people look at dark pool, they're looking at percent traded in the dark pool. And that's misleading because the percent traded in the dark pool is a lot more controllable and manageable for stocks with shorter number of shares outstanding. So if you net out like the percent of the churn as opposed to percent of the shares, and what I mean is churn, I mean volume relative to shares outstanding. That's churn. So looking at that instead of just pure percent is as far as you're ever going to get out of me how it works.
So major sell-off on Friday, 4+% in the QQQ. We're already seeing some momentum come back today. Net option sentiments for the overall market still looking pretty bearish in Prospero. Just your take on what we saw on Friday and how to manage it going forward, especially seeing it kind of buy the dip take place today.
Damn, I got busy with other things, but I really wanted to. I don't know. Iron's got a 52 net option sentiment. I mean, I don't know. Like this, the Friday thing should be taken seriously. This is a bit of a rebound, obviously, especially because things are moving based on, and we've seen this happen before, based on like back and forth headlines with Iran. Like it was a negative headline Friday. Now it's rallying on a positive one Monday. Like I wouldn't read too much into it other than that. And there could be there could be another attack that sends the market going in the other way. If the institutions are playing this conservative, which is what we're seeing, we're not really seeing a rebound in QQQ net option sentiment. That's how I'm going to play it.
Now, I'm not seeing this anywhere, but this is my little hypothesis theory going on. Last Friday was the first trading day where the pattern day trader rule got revoked. And what do we see? We see a massive red day. I feel like it was like almost like institutions trying to stir up emotions in retail investors, the first shot they got at making a bunch of trades and maybe try to make them sell out of positions or whatever. But do you think there's any string to pull there, or is that just me connecting random things?
I don't think there's any string to pull there, Steven. I don't see the connection.
Okay. Do you think that pattern day trade rule being removed will help like Robinhood and a lot of other brokerages with their next report?
Yeah. I don't know how well it was being enforced before. Like this is all mechanics that, in theory could change things. But again, like you never know what Robinhood's doing or how they're enforcing it, or like, they could be letting it go already and we'd have no idea. Like it's the same thing with what happened with GameStop. So in theory, if they were fully enforcing it, yes, it should help their revenue. But we don't know how much they were enforcing it.
JC brought up quantum before, and now Michael Rogan's in the chat. bringing up Quantum and IBM specifically, they are on our short-term bull list at the moment. So signals looking good for IBM.
Yeah, that was one we probably could have kept this weekend. I was close to keeping it and going 4-5. How is it doing today? Oh, down. All right, that looks like the right call. I don't know, like this quantum stuff, it's running, let's see, it's running pretty close to its 52-week high again, which means I was just looking at INQ, which means it's in the range where I'm more likely to short it than go long. Like if I sense the market is, turning in a much more kind of concerted way, I want to check on INQ just right now and like Rigetti. 55 net option sentiment. It's coming down a little bit, but not. Let's check Rigetti, my other favorite shorting victim. Like if I see Rigetti's at 69 in option sentiment, it's looking better. But that is down from where it's been. But yeah, I'd be much more likely if I suspect the market to turn right now. IonQ looks like a target I would look for. But I'm not going short or long right now.
Would Quantum almost be like the best short sector if we do see a tech pullback, even more so than these stocks that have run like crazy that are the AI infrastructure, because those companies have legit earnings and business right now, whereas Quantum is more in the future. So would that make them a better short?
Yeah, that's how I think about it. And I think IBM is a good, safer way to play Quantum long right now as well.
So, I feel like this is like one of the most questioned bull rallies ever. Like nobody really feels good about it. Even going back to before the Friday sell-off, but there's a stat from FactSet about how S&P 500 companies are now the most profitable they've ever been before, recording or keeping about 15 cents of every dollar of revenue, when historically, going back to 1946, that average was about 6 cents or so. We're about 2.5 timesing that now. I guess this is the AI efficiency coming to fruition.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure it's AI yet. I think it's just technology. I think we've seen a lot of efficiencies that technology has added, and a lot of benefits of scale. I mean, I think it's both of those things. And as these companies get scale, I think that's what we really see. I think some of it's like globalization. If you think back to like the wages that the good wages that Henry Ford paid the people on the assembly lines, and that was the standard for like much of the history of the stock market was kind of well paid American manufacturing. Now it's globalization as much as it is technology, right? We get these inputs from other countries that are cheaper. You even have like clothing brands like Nike eventually get called out for this, but manufacturing things for a fraction of the cost abroad that they then sell in the United States. These companies have just been getting more and more efficient at extracting value. And a lot of that, I think just as much, if not more, is coming from globalization as technology.
We cover kind of I have another topic later about this as well, but like the concentration of wealth. These companies keeping more in earnings for every dollar, should there be any kind of rule or law where like, that is given back to the employees, workers? We're hearing the roar of people being like, dissatisfied with the state of the economy get louder and louder. It's probably very much so connected with the companies keeping more of the money instead of like giving it back to the work staff. So do you think there should kind of be anything addressed there, or is that a dynamic that the government should just stay out of?
Well, it's kind of this K-shaped reward structure, right? If CEOs are ultimately rewarded for more efficient companies, higher earnings per share, and they're basically rewarded handsomely for doing that, that's when you get perverse incentives for, say, the country and the people, because CEOs are, say, incentivized to raise earnings, raise their salaries, move things abroad, eliminate jobs with tech, do all of that type of thing. But in terms in terms of it being like actually like the government stepping in and doing anything about it, I mean, I think why would we expect them to? They've accelerated the process. They've been partners of corporations as this process has accelerated. So I wouldn't expect them to now. I think the only way they reconsider is if we see more of like these, warehouses burn, more Luigi Mangionis, like then I think they'd reconsider. But like we talked about with the Bernie Sanders thing, I don't think they would reconsider structurally. I think they would, the government, which would probably be implored by the corporations that felt threatened, would probably, just print some money to, they do things like what Bezos suggested, stop taxes or give like a different kind, a tax break that's a UBI, or like, they probably won't call it UBI because they don't want to admit they're doing socialism, because if they admit they're doing socialism, then it might come for the top of society as well. But yes, if they feel threatened, they're going to do something about it, but it's not going to be giving away ownership of companies or ownership of things or structure. Like if we're looking at the Marx model of this, which we talk about all the time, that's been proven to be one of the more accurate models in predicting this like accumulation of capital like a long time ago, then the means of production will be increasingly concentrated in the hands of the people that already have it. Will they trickle out more from that, encourage the government to do it? Absolutely. But again, I think they'd rather pressure the government to print money to do it than give away anything that they have and start that precedent.
It's an interesting part of, I feel like, human nature, when the point you said like nobody's really going to do anything unless there's factories burning or other, major events. It feels like people need to touch the flame to learn it's hot, even though like you can like learn from other people's mistakes or all that. I'm wondering if that can apply to investing, and I feel like even investors kind of have to learn the hard way. It's interesting how people have to kind of go through it and feel the pain of it versus learning from others. And maybe there's a way that we can try and get people to learn from others' mistakes rather than having to do it firsthand when investing.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I've had so many conversations where I've tried to talk to retail investors and they have barely any experience and they've made a little money and they're talking to me like they're smarter than me and my experience doesn't mean anything because like maybe they're up 300% this year and I've never been up that much. And people get very full of themselves very quickly. And yeah, sometimes they need to come back down to earth before they realize that they're not as smart as they think. And I'm always like, I don't, if I see someone is that overconfident, I actually think the best thing for them is for me not to like, get proud and double down and be like, no, I'm smarter than you. Most of the time, I'm just like, look, I think there's sometimes things I could do for people, but I think the best thing I could do for this person is just let them learn the lesson because they don't want to learn it from me.
And they most likely will sooner than later if they have that attitude. A stock was up at as much as 10% this morning is Corning, ticker GLW, after it was announced that they are entering a multi-billion-dollar deal to power Amazon AI data centers. We've seen tons of stories like this, tons of stocks make moves like this, always connected with the mega caps. I am curious. I'm wondering, we've seen a lot of these companies that I feel like, going back to employees again, that people working at Corning would have never expected, I think, a 300% return in the stock. And like, if you asked them a couple of years ago, are we going to see, do you think, like a mass exodus or a wave of retirement of people who have been working at these companies and are just, these stocks are going crazy and they probably would have never expected returns like this? And would these companies kind of embrace that? Because we've seen, they want to embrace AI, cut staff. So could that be a dynamic we see in the near future?
Sorry, what's the dynamic?
Like the companies like Corning, who has now up like 300% in a year. Are we going to see them have turnover of staff? Maybe the senior staff who had big positions or who got some exposure to the stocks that have now had huge returns? Are we going to see like a wave of retirements amongst companies like that?
I don't necessarily like it. It's complicated. I don't think you can. I don't think it's a one size fits all thing. Um, it really depends on, some people really like to work, right? And especially if you really like your team and like going in there. We have no insights over what company, like, the people actually like to work there, like the people they work with. Um, or just some people just don't want to retire because they don't know what else they do. So like there's too much of the human factor there to just be like, oh, I've made some money, they'll retire. I mean, then the other thing is, they could think that if they stay, they're going to make a lot more, right? It even, you have to take a step back and be like, well, they might not even want to sell. They might want to accumulate more options, have it go up further and then sell. And like, sometimes that's how you can end up working 10 years longer than you thought, because maybe this thing keeps building, their orders get bigger or whatever. But I think I'd kind of look at it the reverse way, right? I'd say like you see really easily who was just in it to make a certain amount of money. That's who retires. But from the outside, we don't really have enough information to say, who's in it for that and who isn't.
Yeah, interesting perspective there. And even like if you go like, the Jensen Huangs of the world, it's like they can't possibly be working for money anymore, right? So it's like, what are they working for? I guess just legacy and driving the technology, their passion for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're making glass, right? Like, like maybe that's just how I see it. Maybe they're convincing themselves that they're doing the Lord's work. But you don't know. You never know how people see themselves. These executives are pretty like, sometimes they're really drinking their own Kool-Aid. Sometimes they're just like, they have the same attitude as me. Like, hey, I'm making some glass and I'm a multimillionaire. It's really, really, it's really like a personal thing and a cultural thing. And honestly, I wish, like, this is why I always encourage people to get to know stocks really well, or especially if they can get to know like a certain industry. Like I don't, or sub industry. I don't really have that much time, but actually you can get to know these cultures and these people. You can listen to their conference calls. Like I used to do that. Like whenever I covered a company, like I would know them. I would know their competitors. But I don't have the time for that anymore. But I would suggest if you do, and if there's a stock that you really like, the management teams of that stock as well as its competitors well.
NW kind of flipped my question on its head of being like, people are coming out of retirement actually because of the economy. Like there's so much opportunity. So maybe that's what we'll see soon.
Yeah,
people,
no, I
like you
know
were
you're
saying.
right. That they can force retirement for sure. But again, that's something like, even if you follow a company closely, that falls into the category of like, not only do we not know the human side, but most of the times we don't know the contracts that well and that specifically.
So we had a turnover in the S&P 500. Marvell, which is the next trillion-dollar company, as Jensen Huang has said, is now joining the S&P 500, as well as Flex, and they will be replacing the Pool Corp and Campbell's Soup. I'm wondering, are we going to see in the future people seem like they have the most optionality ever of like where they want to spend their time, energy, how they can make money, basically? Are we going to see these more boring industries, boring stocks? Are those actually going to be the ones that are like fully automated first by technology, since they're kind of more boring, not sexy? Like it seems like that would be the case where people would choose to spend their attention and energy in other places. So, how do you feel about that?
Are we talking about soup here? Is that what you're asking me? If soup's going to be
Soup,
automated?
soup, all these manufacturing, just basically any of these stocks. When you look at the stock and you just think like, how would I ever get excited about this stock?
I think that it's probably more of a function of, like, we're talking about the scale of these newer companies, right? At the end of the day, like, I don't think it's necessarily that you can't make money off a soup manufacturing company, right? But I just think that like you don't need to disrupt the soup industry. Nobody's going to get venture capital to be like, we got a better way of making soup cheaper, right? That's not going to happen. So you end up having these companies just like it actually is apropos to what we were talking about at the beginning, right? All of these newer companies that can, make money with better margins come in and just become more profitable than the older ones. Like, I don't think it's that people are, buying a very different amount of soup than they used to. I just think probably Campbell's soup is just like kind of like an older infrastructure, probably bloated executive base, kind of more traditional company. When these newer ones not only probably have more efficient supply chains, inherently better margin businesses, they probably never grew this big middle management layer that happened when, Campbell's soup was hot shit because their business model was good. And they just be like, well, let's hire like a head of, soup efficiency and soup tasting and soup innovation. And those are probably all like these departments. When you probably don't even have that many, that many of those kind of departments at Flex.
Mario,
Look, like how many? Wow, Flex has a lot of employees. That's a bad example. But I think they're like they're manufacturing. Let's see. Yeah, wow. That is a lot of people. But I think
150,000 employees at Flex.
Yeah, Flex is probably a bad example, but I don't know. I don't know the Flex business well. I think they do shipping, and a lot of those people could be involved in the shipping. Shipping is pretty people heavy for now. I don't have time to learn all about Flex right now.
We can move on to this story about how Google and NVIDIA are considering Intel as a manufacturer of advanced AI chips because TSM is not able to meet the capacity that these companies are requiring. So another bull story for Intel. They're up 13% last we checked today off of this headline. Maybe this Intel move has some gas left in the tank. What do you think? I mean, partnering up with Google and NVIDIA.
When is there like when is there like subsidized factory due?
Not sure. Let me check.
Because like that's a very interesting part of Intel. Like I do think I don't know all of how that bill worked, but I do think that I don't know if the purchases of the chips are subsidized or the inputs are subsidized, or just the factory. I don't really know the mechanics of it, but conceivably, like if the actual chips are subsidized for people to buy, that's huge for Intel and a threat to TSM.
I'm seeing 2030 is the first and 2031 is the second facility up and running. So a couple of years at least, it looks like. The other question I have on this story is, do you think Intel would have ever been considered for this prior to the support we've seen for them? Or is it just a case of there's been so much demand in this space, like these companies are running out of options. They got to get the chips from somewhere. So it's like almost everybody is on the table to work with right now.
Well, I think that's some of it. And I think part of it is like, I think the government has made it clear that taking care of American interests will be rewarded. So I think that there's a certain amount of like headlines out there that companies want to pursue that would make the government more friendly towards them, that also, helps other businesses that the government has already helped. There is kind of like a circular motion to that going on, I would say.
Interesting. So we've been counting down the days to this SpaceX IPO. We are now at the week of the SpaceX IPO this Friday. Maybe we'll be live when it's actually going live, since we're going to be live Friday instead of Wednesday this week. But
yeah, everybody set your calendars in case you didn't see it in the letter. We're
yeah,
going to do our longest. I mean, we've done long before, but we're going to do our longest organized. We're going to do an hour and a half live stream for my last day before vacation. Maybe
yes.
I'll wear an extra funky shirt for that.
Oh, you know what you should do? What we
What?
should actually do is you should like do a shirt change like maybe 2 or 3 times, because if we're gonna be posting them all, I don't know if you want to wear the same shirt for like
All
30
right.
clips.
I'm gonna wear my funkiest shirts.
Your top 3.
To
Yeah,
scare
okay.
people off.
This is a good
Yeah,
idea.
I'm gonna wear some of my night shirts. You guys normally only get to see day shirts. Come to see the night shirts.
So going back to SpaceX, a lot of these space stocks actually got caught up in the downturn even before this Friday's bloodbath, but like ASTS down from the highs, Rocket Lab, the rest of them. Any interest? I was thinking maybe we were going to see this sell the news, but it has seemed to ramp up. So can we see a second wave of sell buy the rumor, sell the news, where now they've sold off and they can run back up through the IPO, or could they run beyond the IPO? Any thoughts on those space companies?
I'm checking ASTS right now because I'm like, I kind of want to get into it again, but I obviously issued my warning. 98 net option sentiment on ASTS. Time to add it again. I might add it. We might do a live ad. Let's see. I want to look at the chart for a second. Damn. Yeah, it's bouncing a little, but it's also on a downswing. I don't know. I'm going to watch it for a little while longer. 98 net option sentiment. Wait, let me look at the half hour. I think I'm going to add it today. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm not just going to talk in circles right now,
though. Does ASTS, because we've been highlighting it a lot as like because of the IPO play, but the business of ASTS and some of these other space stocks, does that excite you beyond the IPO?
It's a good question. I think it excites me in terms of like, especially ASTS. What we love about it is like how quickly these satellites could get launched, and it could mean revenue for them. I do also think like the amount of compute that SpaceX owns is interesting, and I think that's interesting because you also have to like segregate that part out of it as a business. I don't think people are smart enough. I think it'll rise on sympathy. But as I saw the compute thing, where I think Google, I think another pretty large company has forward agreements on SpaceX's compute because they had so much for XAI. I was not aware of how much compute SpaceX had. But that is to say, I think there could be like a sympathy while we're talking about revenue. I think as long as SpaceX goes up, ASTS, Rocket Lab, we'll see the sympathy move. But I don't actually know enough about Rocket Lab, Virgin Galactic's business. I really, I should have a thread. I'll prepare that for Friday for the space where we go through all of the businesses of the space companies.
Because it does seem like there's some pretenders in that space just riding the hype wave. Nick is saying, I'm wondering if today or tomorrow, or today to tomorrow, is just going to be a dead cat bounce in the markets. It would be surprising to me if like the market was just to, like, we've had all of this excitement for this IPO on Friday, and then if it was just to be a bloodbath through the IPO, like, would that SpaceX IPO just drop 30%? Like, it's tough to imagine that happening. So I'm wondering if we're going to see some momentum stay through then.
I mean, I think it's hard. I think it's hard to say right now because of where we started, right? I think we're just like waiting to see if, this Israel-Iran thing was just a flare up. I mean, we don't know if it's theater, right? Like Trump is getting more fed up with Israel, but maybe everybody is just has agreed to look tough right now. That's what I was thinking as I read this. maybe they're all like, this is over, but we all want to look good. Trump's like, I want to look like I'm standing up to Israel. And Israel's like, I want to look like I haven't, let this go. And Iran's like, I want to look like we're not going to get pushed around. Like, they could have all agreed to the terms, but they're just like doing the theater that their people would like them to do for now.
It's the perfect Spider-Man meme where they're all just pointing at each other like, who's going to stand down first?
Yeah, they could be like, okay, this is over. Or they might do this for 6 more months, right? Mm-hmm. But the only thing that matters to me is QQQ net option sentiment is lower, and it's been so elevated. That's the only thing that matters to me, because it's not even like, okay, maybe the market is expecting a bigger, like Middle East flare up than is happening now. It's actually more just like, okay, maybe people are thinking that, maybe institutions are thinking that they want to lock in these gains a little more, and locking in gains, starting to hedge more, is kind of the first step in the market turning, and then those hedges turning into leaning in, leaning in and betting against. There's a fine line between those two things.
Last note on this SpaceX story, and Ontario Teachers Pension Plan invested $300 million in 2019, sitting on a nearly $12 billion gain. Now, are all the Ontario teachers about to get a raise in their pensions, or where does that money go to? I don't understand. It seems like a pretty risky investment for a pension fund.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes pensions are very varied in how they approach things. But I don't know. I don't think it's variable. I think it probably affects how much the people that work at Ontario Teachers Pension Fund get paid, like the managers for sure. But I think the pensions are like straight agreements. Now, I will say, I bet if the teachers find out that there's a bunch of money in there, they can renegotiate the deal. But I'm not sure the existing deal that they have means that there's upside if there's more money in the pension. That would be quite a sharky agreement negotiation for the teachers union, but God bless them if they got that.
We got just a few more minutes here, so to rattle off through a few topics. So this was a post from Hedge Eye on Twitter. The top 1% now holds a larger share of U.S. wealth than the entire middle class. I feel like we're working at Prospero to switch this, but we are not seeing it change currently. So what can we do, George?
Sorry, I was typing about shirts.
Top 1% now owns more wealth in the U.S. than the entire middle class.
I mean, that's not surprising. These people are out of control, and I mean, it is like to close on what we were talking about with the retail investors. It's like you look at these people, and they're quite similar as like the retail investors that I'm talking about. They're in a mode where greed has worked so well for them, and they have such little understanding of how it feels for everybody else around them that they have no idea what's coming. And they don't care, but they're definitely going to push it to a point where something I don't expect them to be the ones that say enough is enough. I expect that to be the other people, unfortunately. And I do not wish any harm upon anyone, but I also think like there are just numerous examples throughout history. If you ignore the anguished cry of the people, it catches up with you.
So getting towards the end of it, appreciate everybody tuning in today. Drop a like if you enjoyed the topic so far. Once again, live Friday at 1:30 p.m. EST. Last topic. Global stock market now has eclipsed 150 trillion. USA accounts for about 52% of that. Where do you think we'll be in the future? Does that seem about right? Do you think we could even increase that lead with AI, or do you think we'll drop below 50%?
I mean, I think for now we're good. I think the wild card is robotics. Like, that's the big thing. I mean, we're talking about like robotics, batteries, areas where China is making legitimate threats. I'm concerned about that, but I think it's going to be the robots that determine that. I think like there's some interesting things going on in the Nordic countries, but if we are not the leader in robotics, like I think we could easily see that slip to 40% over the next 5 years, or maybe even lower. All right, I got to run.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the time, George. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're all excited for the shirts on Friday, so everybody be there. But until then, everybody, have a great rest of your week. We'll be looking forward to the SpaceX IPO. Last comment from JC. Great stream today. Thanks. Go Knicks. Go Knicks. Oh my gosh. Going to be so exciting. Maybe I'll be chatting about it in the Prospero Discord, so we'll see if we get a Knicks chat going there. But have a good rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Friday. Bye, everyone.